Hey, you! Finally awake. Welcome back. In our previous attempts to reduce my sanity meter to 0, I decided the best thing to do was to perform a true shiny only run of Pokemon Legends ZA. This has been trying, to say the least. However, there has only been one episode. Fortunately, the pain has been minimal, microscopic even. Dare I say it, comforting. Is this foreshadowing? At this point, even I don't know. Regardless, let's recap what has happened, so we can tell her what will be. We arrived in Kalos, I got press-ganged into a fight club, and I spent 5 hours of my life catching a silkworm. However, we successfully managed to make it to rank Y and went to bed, not knowing of the horrors that lay ahead. The morning after was fairly uneventful. We were accosted again outside the hotel by a workers' union who started selling us VTuber merch. Not sure if selling catnip-infused plushies should be strictly legal in a place inhabited by cats that can literally turn you inside out, but whatever you need to do to make bank, I suppose. Our task for today is to get to Looker's bureau and talk to Emma, the crazy Storm Area 51 participant that we saw last night. We do some more parkour and are asked to finally end it all by jumping off a 5th-story roof. You had me at jump. Unfortunately, our sentient smartphone means that we are incapable of hitting the pavement at terminal velocity. And everything was going so well. Not getting out of this that easily, apparently. We are then introduced to a reputable businessman that definitely doesn't moonlight as a mafia boss on Saturdays, and encounter the Fists of Justice, a supposedly radical activist / fighting dojo that think wild zones are literally impromptu segregation camps, which they are, but also thinks that wild Pokemon are dangerous and the humans themselves should learn how to battle against them in one-on-one combat. Did these people forget the part about them being able to turn us literally inside out? Yeah, I would love to see them fist fighting a fucking Kadabra. One of them overhears Tawny talking shit, quite right, and thinks that I should be punished for associating with utter scum. We send them packing, and Tawny still thinks it's cool to talk shit about them behind their backs. Read the room, Tawny. Before they overhear again, we make it to Emma's agency, and whilst the two of them chat about girl shit, I get to do all the hard labour, and I'm introduced to side missions. In fact, we are given the requirement to complete 3 side quests in order to progress the story. Fortunately, the game now opens up and we are allowed to explore proper. We do a few scaffolding jumping puzzles for colourful screws, which are apparently the currency for those catnip plushies I spoke about earlier. Enjoy some actual touristy activities by going to the Limoys Museum, and getting PTSD flashbacks over my last shiny Oni run, and get thoroughly lost for about 2 hours. We regain consciousness with some very nice drip that makes me look like I'm about to nuke a city with an ice particle beam, and we start our investigations. First, a man claims that they've seen a very angry rabbit on a spree of destruction. Well, as long as the rabbit is neither purple nor yellow, I think we'll be fine. And we are asked to subdue it. But before we get to that, I think it's time for some shiny hunting, in what is now known as the most broken spot in the entire game. Zone 3. Now at the time I didn't know there was anything significant about Zone 3, but my friend on Discord suggested that if I wanted some shinies to bulk out my team swiftly, that it would be a pretty good done deal. He had no idea how right he was. Zone 3 has in its area a tower, which you can climb using this door here, and then you're able to climb back down using the stairs behind you. Now this probably doesn't sound particularly useful until you realise that every time you climb up the stairs, you are effectively respawning any Pokemon within 50 meters of your location, and you are also doing that climbing back down. This sounds like a pretty easy way to cycle roughly 20 spawns that are within the tower's spawn radius. However, if you play previous Pokemon games, you would know that you'd have to actively check every time you respawned the Pokemon, or you'd lose the shiny. So 50% of the shiny spawns, you're probably losing at this point. Boy, do I have a revelation that'll kill all difficulty shiny hunting for you. It turns out that Game Freak decided that Scarlet and Violet's shiny system was a little too difficult for the average player. Now, I'm not an average player, seeing as I have a full shiny living dex in Scarlet and Violet, but the changes they've made are quite noticeable. If you miss a shiny by not noticing it, walking away and causing it to despawn, instead of losing it forever, it is saved in memory until the next time you go to the same location with the exact same spawn conditions. In other words, it's always going to be there as long as you carry on. And that includes its shiny status. And ZA does this for up to 10 Pokemon at a time. This is scuffed. Right, I'm not trying to be mean to people who've never had a shiny in the near 30 years of this franchise's history. Fucking hell. But this is completely trivializing shiny hunting for me. In fact, I'm going to decide to recoin this to shiny fishing instead, because this game effectively removes the active part of shiny hunting that I love and enjoy. That's why I started this challenge, because I really enjoyed the shiny hunting part of shiny hunting. So following my friend's advice, I find an elastic band, wrap it around my Joy-Con, and set it to the side for a few hours. And this is what I came back to. Yes, 5 shinies, entirely for no work on my part. I think this Pavilion is also shiny, but I've no way to get there, so I'll just have to wait. And I hate this. So we decide we are only going to claim one of our ill-gotten treasures from this shiny hunting spree, otherwise I'd already have a shiny team, and we move on to help our hiker friend with his rabbit bother. The giant Bunnelby, fortunately, was a pushover thanks to Aloise's ground-type immunity, and we are introduced to yet another Legends mechanic, Alpha Pokemon. These are rare, more powerful spawns of Pokemon at their biggest possible size, and some of these can be surprisingly tough. Fortunately, we're only doing a shiny only run, and as such, if we come across any alphas, we can just kill them. No need to start catching them willy-nilly. Right? The next mission involves an old lady that accidentally misplaced a priceless family heirloom when she went on a jaunt through the local graveyard. If it's an amulet of Arcade, I wouldn't be surprised. Unfortunately, the item has been acquired by a Sableye, who we politely persuade to part with the ring by beating 7 shades of hell into it. And we then return it to the lady. Nice! 2 out of 3. These are pretty simple so far. The final task is a woman who is very interested in evolution, and is so much so that she wants a Pokemon capable of evolving with a Thunderstone. Pikachu. Oh dear. And to those of you out there wondering why this is such an issue, need I remind you that this is a shiny only run? As in, I can only catch shiny Pokemon. I'm not doing this like all those other shiny runs you've seen online, because I think those people are disingenuous and really don't give us a good reputation, us autistic fucking shiny hunters. Those people are just here for clout. I'm here for actual fucking torture, okay? So in other words, this task to progress the game requires me to catch a shiny Pikachu. And therein is where the true madness of this run lies. Now, there are 3 Pikachu that spawn inside Zone 3, but all of them are out range of the tower spawn radius, so that's out of the question. So I'll have to do this the same way we got the Scatterbug. Manually. Fortunately, there's a nice road just behind them where we can easily refresh the spawns. So, let's get cracking. Less than an hour later, we have the shiny Pikachu we need, and take it to the woman. In exchange, she trades us a Heracross, which is entirely useless to us, and evolves it immediately into a Raichu. Oh nice, the requested Pokemon stays shiny. That'll make this look much nicer by the end. We return to Emma, tell her we've done her chores, and she shows us what Mega Evolution is. How the fuck is someone who's native to Kalos not know this? Like, didn't you miss the fucking Doomsday weapon 5 years ago? Like, that happened, right? That's not just... nobody's forgotten that, right? At this point, we're now thoroughly done with the tutorial section of this game. Whew. That only took 12 hours. 12 hours to do the tutorial. My god. This will be quite a series, eh? We are then informed by the ZO Royale app that our next fight has been arranged against Yvonne. And I discovered that this challenge might be more difficult than it first seemed, because I had no idea how progression in this game worked. I foolishly assumed that the ZA rank would be how the new missions spawn. So you get a new rank, it gives you your next set of side quests. That is not the case. In fact, every new side mission can activate at any point in the story, as long as there's been some sort of progression. And if I wanted to progress, I needed to complete each one before we make any story progress. So we beat a worker on their break so we can fix a holovator, and we are also able to access the shiny villain that was mocking us from across the plaza. We also find a deathly ill Fennekin that's only hope is an old herbalist that needs a stick from a specific route to save the poor bugger. I'm not sure this is strictly legal medicine. Unfortunately, the way is blocked by impassable toxic waste. And no move I currently have can actually remove it. Looks like we'll have to move on for now until I can find a solution. Our next mission is another grind. This kid here wants to see an Ekans. I'm trying to avoid as many snake jokes as I can involving this. This is not a good place to be. I'm not enjoying this one. So once again, we're on the hunt. Ekans spawns in Zone 4 during the day. However, this zone is a little more difficult than Zone 3, because all the spawns are mixed up and are partially randomized. Unlike the 3 guaranteed Pikachu spawns, any one of these spots can spawn any Pokemon here. So we'll need to work out a way to refresh the spawn of as many Pokemon as possible, ideally with the help of having to run 50 or even 60 meters back and forth. And this is where fast travel comes in clutch, because just like the stairs in Zone 3, fast travelling, irrespective of the distance travelled, does the same refresh as walking up and down the stairs. And so, once again, we get back to the grind. 3 hours of madness uncovers a shiny Ghastly, and an hour later our shiny Sneck has been found. We step all over it, and it's on our team. Fantastic. So, we show the yellow serpent to the child. Yeah, I'm sorry. And that's another request ticked off our list that we will never talk about again. Another interesting discovery is that, for some unknown reason that I literally cannot fathom, Confusion removes these horrid toxic blobs, and with amazing luck, Ghastly happens to know Confusion. So we're able to progress our sickly Fennekin mission as well, collecting the twigs from under a very angry Tyre, and saving the Fennekin from a slow and grueling demise. I'm still not entirely sure what the twig actually did, but it worked. We're also given the fox as a gift, so thanks I guess. Enjoy eternity in the PC, Fennekin. Our next mission involves a chestpin that has an utter hatred of vehicular travel, and refuses to stop throwing rocks at local taxis. We teach him a few lessons on criminal mischief and the potential felonies that could be heading his way. And we are so effective that we are named its parole officer and given its Pokeball to look after. Looks like another for solitary confinement. Another small jaunt and we encounter a Froakie, who apparently is a master gymnast and needs to be taken down a peg or two. So we beat it to its own game, clambering up multiple scaffolding puzzles, some we've already fucking completed, to be crowned a better climber than a frog. Absolute staggering. Unlike the last 2 tasks, we are also given the Froakie as a reward. It's a shame that all gift Pokemon are shiny locked, otherwise 1 or 2 of these might actually have been useful. You know, to break obstacles. And that's the end of the current collection of side missions, so we can start working on the Battle Royale. A few uneventful fights later, we have our challenge ticket and are capable of challenging Yvonne. The fight goes much better than the last, seeing as we actually have the same amount of Pokemon as Yvonne, and we use both Clement and Beatrice to great effect. We return to the hotel for another hellish meal and another good night's rest. In the morning, Lyda decides that she'll respect our privacy by not prying, so instead forces us to pry into Naveen's life. Naveen believes this is an invasion of privacy, and I've got to agree with the cynical bastard. He can tell me when he's good and ready. Lyda thinks that both of us are boring and makes it into a Pokemon battle instead. Fantastic game. We beat Naveen and he reveals shit that we already knew after his first encounter outside the Pokemon labs. He wants to be a fashion designer. Not sure that was worth all that effort, to be honest, but I digress. It's time for the next section of missions. Our first mission is to help a woman with her gardening. Fortunately, we have caught a Litleo previously and are able to assist. Nice and easy. There are also a few battle missions, one with an Aldino and another with a couple of Kakuna, which we clear just nicely. The next one I think is going to be my first proper mulligan on the run, however. Vivace here wants us to show her one of every colour of Flabebe. Flabebe comes in 5 colours of flower, which means this task I will need to catch 5 separate Flabebe shiny, 4 of which I have no idea where they spawn. So this task would take an exorbitant amount of time immediately. So I've made the executive decision to have this one on the back burner. If I come to a reliable spot where new Flabebe spawn, I will then attempt to shiny hunt it, but I'm not actively working on this task currently. We've already had an 8 hours of roadblocks, and I'd like to see some new content. We'll add each Flabebe apart from the red one, because we caught one in Zone 3 earlier, to our catch later list and carry on. We then have an escort mission with a cake. We're literally escorting a cake. Right. Maybe I should go back and do those Flabebe. It seems like the content is only there. And after this, a perfumer would like to take trimmings from a Skiddo. Fortunately, I've already got multiple of these shiny, and so I can immediately hand this in. Lastly, we have this. An old man is holding a Budew Appreciation Society meetup and thinks we should turn up with our own. This comes at a time, my worst shiny hunt to date. Budew can spawn in many places. It has guaranteed spawns within Zone 2, and can even be spawned from the tower method in Zone 3, next to where the villain was. And they're also dotted around the rooftops all over the city. Budew, however, are incredibly skittish, and if they spot you, they will leave. And if they leave, it takes roughly 5 minutes in-game for one to respawn. And that timer doesn't go down if you fast travel or stair reset. So we really only get one shot at attempting to catch it. So I start fast travel resetting in Zone 2. Zone 2 has a single spawn directly next to the entrance, so although it's slow with only one spawn, it should be reliable. 2 hours later, and no shiny to speak of. No matter, I get a bit bored, variety of the spice of life if you will, and head back to Zone 3 to try and see if getting the shiny on the rooftop is a touch easier. 2 more hours later, a shiny Litleo, Skiddo, and another shiny Scatterpug on the rooftop, but no shiny Budew. The pain is building. I have a look around the rooftops nearby and spot an area where I can respawn 4 separate Budews. 2 hours there, no shiny Budew. I return to Zone 2, 2 more hours, no shiny. In the end, I find this spot where multiple Budew can spawn, and there is just enough room on the rooftops to refresh all 3 spots, and so I get back to the grindstone. 1 hour passes, no shiny. 2 hours, no shiny. On the cusp of 3 hours later, an absolute mad lad of a shiny Rants decides to spawn in the grass below, so nice. That may become useful later, so I catch it. Welcome to the Team Desolé. Heck, I even find another red Flabebe half an hour later, so it looks like my luck is changing. Finally! That bloody pink sprout is finally mine! This shiny Budew took a total of 16 arduous hours. It also cost me half of my sanity, and in an effort to recollect my thoughts, I completely forgot about the actual fighting half of this game. I also decided, for some bizarre reason, to banish any Zone 3 shinies, as I thought that AFK farming was against the nature of this run. So it looks like I'll have to find another fire type to cut down the brambles. I don't even have something to cut down the boulders. What exactly am I going to do now? Thanks, Crazy Me. You've done me an absolute service. So I take my new acquired Budew to BudCon and get crowned the winner of the Best in Show. Nice. In all this shuffling, my team looks a bit weak, with only one Pokemon over level 20. So I do a bit of EXP grinding, to little effect, and I get back to the ZA Royale. I then get enough points to get my Challenger ticket and fight Zavi. There's really not much to talk about when it comes to the battling in this game. It's fairly mundane and either ends in two ways. Either I one-shot everything, or they one-shot me. That's really how it ends up, and it looks very similar to how PLA used to do it. So I am going to gloss over this unless something actually comes up that's really important with the fighting mechanics. But yes, Zavi. Zavi teaches me a very valuable lesson when it comes to fighting in this game. Don't randomly send your Pokemon onto spikes for no damn reason. I come out on top, and rank W is ours. And after the hell that was Budew, the absolute madness that was Ekans, and suddenly losing at least half of my shinies to me being delirious, I think we can finally rest. Until next time, please press all the algorithm happy buttons. Let me know what you think of this in the comments, and I do hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Oh god, not more bloody curry. Townie, why do you do this to me? Do you enjoy this?